Warning, the following podcast will contain spoilers for Thor Ragnarok, obviously, and all movies in the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Hello and welcome back to Vassals of Kingsgrave for our Thor Ragnarok Marvel Cinematic Universe review. I will be your host for the evening. My name is Adam, also known as drownedsnow on the podcast of Ice and Fire Forums. And today I am joined by Dana.
taindana on the forums.
And Dana, tell me, what would you rate Thor Ragnarok? What would you give it?
4. Yeah, easy. Yeah, 4. 4 birthday orgies.
Four birthday orgies out of 5. That's pretty high rating. We also have Sarah.
Hi, I'm Sarah Lady Weaver on the forums, and I'd give it 4 Hulk smashes out of 5.
Nice. And Paul?
Paul, SerDinnerRoll on the forums, and I would give it 4 out of 5 better looking haircuts.
Nadia?
Hi guys, this is Nadia. I'm also gonna give it. I'll go with 4.5. Some things I don't know.
Yay!
Korg. I loved Korg.
Yeah, Korg is amazing, and I'm gonna give it like a 4.5, like 4.5. Celebrate my champion out of 5. Yeah, I don't know. I really enjoyed this movie. This is kind of how I enjoy, especially like the cosmic Marvel. I like it to be a bit more light, which we'll get into that, but. I thought that from start to finish, it moved really well. The pacing, they surprisingly fit quite a lot in there. Why don't you guys just give me some of your impressions, like beforehand? Like, what did you guys think? Like, were you super excited for this movie? Were you kind of like tentatively excited? Like, what were we feeling before we went out?
Before I saw the trailer, I was like, and then I saw the trailer, and I'm like, oh, the trailer looks great. But then again, the trailer looks great, not necessarily the movie. So I was like, I'm pumped, but I don't want to be pumped in case it's really bad. So, yeah, struggles.
That's pretty fair. I mean, the first full trailer that dropped, I think I had the same reaction. Very excited. I was like, holy crap, this looks like it could be really good. But, I don't know. The Marvel movies have been kind of up and down, and like I really enjoyed Guardians of the Galaxy and Guardians of the Galaxy 2. So, and I think this movie kind of took a lot of lessons from that. But I wasn't sure if the trailer maybe was just trying to tell you that, or if, or what was really going on. And the trailer was actually a bit deceptive in points, which we'll get into. Anyone else?
I was cautiously optimistic about it. When I saw the trailer, I was like, oh, this feels so much like Guardians of the Galaxy, and the Guardians of the Galaxy movies are some of my favorite Marvel movies. So I was very optimistic. I was glad to see, it's Thor and Loki is back with him, and everything's going to be fun. And Thor is kind of one of my favorite superheroes simply because he just kind of sticks out from the other Avengers. And so, yeah, I was excited.
Is that because he's blonde?
Well, yeah, and he's like the only one who's not always like, oh, I have so much, like, when we've seen him, like, in the other movies, he's having fun being a superhero, well, like, Tony's like, oh, is this right? And Captain America's always conflicted, and meanwhile, you just have Thor going like, yeah, sure, I'll smash him with my hammer. It's fine.
It was just like, I've had a few hundred years of practice. I got this, bro. I got it.
Yeah, and he's kind of dropped a lot of the these and theys and, have at thee, and he does that a bit. But I think in the earlier movies he did that a bit more, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's assimilated to our Earth ways.
He knows how to take selfies, so
even though Jane just kind of dumped him, Natalie Portman didn't want to be in any more movies. They were like, no, it was mutual. It was definitely mutual. We both parted ways mutually. Which is like, whatever, it's fine.
Does that mean we'll never see Darcy again? I loved her.
Oh,
yeah, they might bring Darcy back.
I
as the
hope
more.
so.
Yeah, but
Because
she
Natalie
was
Portman
like,
might come back too.
As-
Think about Gwyneth Paltrow, right? Like she disappeared a bit, and like it seems like she's still willing to come back,
yeah.
for the
But that was
money.
just like a tiny, tiny scene, right?
And it was for
Yeah.
Spider-Man, and you can't say no to Spider-Man.
And I guess one thing we can say that about the Marvel Universe as a whole, as it's gotten older, these movies is that, and this movie was definitely an encapsulation of that, is that they really need to get rid of some of the actors, just practically. Some of the actors that are older or who have been around for a while maybe are commanding more money, and they can't really afford to have in movies, so they need to just kind of kill some off or write them off in some way, and it just makes their lives easier, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's still sad. You know what's funny?
Yeah.
I saw this with Mum, and then we saw Loki for the first time, and she's like, Tom Hiddleston got old. That's what she said. And I'm like, what, Mum?
Aw. He's dating Taylor Swift. It's sucking the life out of him.
What?
I think
Tom
so.
Hiddleston just had a bad wig this time. He should have got a
I think
haircut with
his
Thor.
I think his makeup wasn't great either, because I think he looked really pasty. His skin didn't
He
look like
looked kind
skin
of
to me. It
gaunt
looked
What
kind
was that?
sometimes.
yeah.
Yeah,
used to
like that
look
kind of
at me
ashy
like-
complex.
Yeah.
complexion.
Yeah.
But that's been very consistent throughout all the movies. I thought Loki looked like that.
Well, in
Since
Avengers, he
the
definitely
first
did.
movie. Yeah.
Because
Yeah,
I
but-
rewatched that this week, and I rewatched the first Thor this week as well.
But the thing as well is, he should be living it up because he's been Odin for however many years, so his complexion should be on point, not ashy. He should be full of life, exuberance. And then, like, you see him as Loki and you're like, man, being a ruler has put you, like, you look like shit, man.
Well,
Don't
I
be
mean,
a ruler.
there's definitely some sort of like magical or cosmic, whatever drain that I think goes into running Asgard, because it's just like a sheet of Earth or whatever, just suspended in the cosmos. It's really weird, actually. So let's just get into the actual film itself. Let's start with let's see. It's been a week since it came out, so we all saw it this week, obviously. And I'm just looking at the box office numbers here. I think it set a record for the weekend opening for November. I think it had like 120, 130 million opening. It's already got I think like 160 or 170 million, and like the last movie I think only made 200 domestic total. So it's on pace to be like the highest grossing Thor movie. It was directed by let's see, what is his? How do you pronounce his
Taika
name?
Waititi.
Taika
which is why I
Waititi?
did. Yeah.
Which
Sorry.
people have been telling me like they love this guy, and I had not really heard of him, and I looked at his resume. He's like he directed some episodes of Flight of the Conchords. Like he's done some stuff that I've seen, but I wasn't really aware of him. The voice, he voices Korg in this movie, which is hilarious, which is great, and he's kind of given himself maybe a recurring role in the future. Who knows whether he's directing or not? But I didn't realize that it was him.
Well, they did a really good job with the accent.
Yeah, I mean that was a great comedic choice, because obviously you don't expect Korg to sound like that. So that was great. And we saw in Thor 2, we saw like at least the rock people. We saw them like in the opening scene there, when Thor and his bros were rolling around putting down all the wars. Anyway, let's just talk about just kind of the overall plot of this movie. We're going to go through it pretty quick, and then we'll just come back and talk a little bit more. So it opens up with the scene from the first trailer where Thor is chained and trapped, it seems. He's actually chained in Surtur's realm, you find out. And he's, this is all by design. He's, you get a couple funny scenes. He's there to steal Surtur's crown, and because that whole gag with him spinning around on the chain was great. And then Surtur drops the bomb on him that Odin is not in Asgard. So at this point, it's been like 2 years, 3 years. It's hard to say. Like, since do these kind of take place in real time?
I just thought, oh, he hasn't been home in a long time.
Yeah. It's like, what have you been doing? Yeah, because when he does he gets, we have this great opening scene and fighting, and he takes Surtur's crown, and then he returns home, and we've got a different keeper of the Bifrost. Here we've got Scourge, who has a new character played by
Carl Urban.
Carl Urban, who is a genre hero, who's awesome. And it's nice to see him in this role. I think he played it really well. But he's got, I don't know, some Asgardian ladies there that he is entertaining, showing them his M16s and his hoard of things that I guess he stole from various places. And he seems to be using the Bifrost to go like steal things, and then he just like puts them there. But that's
his character wasn't very
his man cave. I don't know.
Yeah, he's going souvenir shopping.
Yeah, I'm like, well, I guess because Heimdall really just never left, right? Like he has to stay there like all the time. I always just imagined he had like an apartment below or something, but apparently not. So he comes home and is a little, Thor's a little confused because Heimdall's not there anymore, and he returns to the palace to find Odin feasting and being a little strange while watching a play featuring Matt Damon about the heroics of Loki and how he died to save Asgard. And obviously we know Odin is really Loki at this point, and Thor brings that out. And this is just, this whole sequence, up to this point, I was like, okay, I think I'm going to enjoy this movie, the first 10-15 minutes here. What did you guys think?
I absolutely love it because I didn't have it spoiled for me at all. Apparently a few people did. And as soon as I saw Matt Damon, and then it's Luke Hemsworth, so it's he was in Westworld. He's playing Thor, and then Sam Neill, and it was just so delightful.
Yeah.
Taika Waititi has worked with Sam Neill at least once with Hunt for the Wilder People, and the Grandmaster's right-hand woman is from that as well. So he's kind of getting all the
older Hemsworth brother then?
Yeah, the security guy from Westworld.
Yeah, I recognized him from Westworld, but I didn't realize he was a Hemsworth. So it's revealed that Odin is Loki, and the people seem to be, I guess, kind of shocked, but I don't know. Like, they take it. I guess he's been up there for years, conditioning them that Loki's a hero, but also the rule of Asgard has seemed to gone to shit. So I don't know how the economy of Asgard works.
But has it?
Well, the food and everything keeps flowing. It's not like the streets are, filled with garbage. So I guess things are going okay. It's just everywhere else.
You know
so
what?
Loki bred and circused them.
Basically.
I think, what's funny? Can I do a spoiler for the end of the movie? I think it's kind of weird
absolutely.
At the end, Loki comes back and he's like, I'm here to save you all. And it's like, Loki, he really did give them a great couple of years because lots of food, lots of wine, great entertainment. He did a good job ruling them.
He didn't do anything to hurt the people. That's for sure. He just kind of cut them off from the rest of the universe for his own reasons, but they seem to get along okay.
Yeah, and they all seemed actually quite happy. So
I just loved seeing Anthony Hopkins playing Loki, playing Odin. It's popping a grape into his mouth. He's like, oh, that's good. More emotion.
I didn't do it for him.
He's mouthing the words along because he wrote this entire play himself one night.
I actually thought he might have seen it a few hundred times as well, and it's just play it again.
Replaying it.
Yeah.
Yeah, on Earth they have this thing called TV. We still are reliant on live entertainment here in Asgard.
Just yells out, scene selection. I want to see the scene where I do the cool thing.
No, he probably has the number of scenes.
it doesn't seem like any of the actors are forced to do this, does it? Right? Like everyone just seems to be having a party and watching their favorite play. Like
they're actors; they're just happy to be employed.
But no one is like, oh my gosh, Thor, you're here, thank you. Like, Odin's gone crazy. It makes sense that he's Loki. Like,
yeah, it's more like, God damn it, Thor, go away. We were having a great time.
Kind of, yeah. Why do you got to come and ruin everything? Gosh, Thor.
I'd laugh if they all knew it wasn't actually Odin, but it's more like, no, we're having so much fun. Just keep it cool. Keep it cool.
Because he's so obviously
kind of
not Odin.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they've consistently said in these movies that Loki probably would be the better ruler. He just wants to like murder people to do it. So
yeah, isn't there like a discussion between like Thor and Loki at some point where Thor's like, I didn't even want the throne. I would have given it to you.
Yeah, like I mean in the first movie, in pretty much every movie, there's that discussion. Where it's like, yeah, I would have given it to you, but you were kind of an ass and not cool. And also at the time, like in the first movie, Thor is like a huge douche bro to start off. So yeah. So we've learned lessons from this movie that Odin, not great at raising children, not great at all.
1 out of 3.
Frey's a little better. Honestly, Loki was probably the best brought up of all these kids. Like, you know what I mean? He just took some of the wrong lessons because of the whole, adopted frost giant baby thing, and he has issues. He needs therapy. That's all.
Well, he was trying to mess things up before he knew he was adopted. So
he's a trickster god, though. That's what he does. He tricks.
Yeah, when you're like, so how do they decide? Was it like, Thor, you're the god of thunder. Here's your thunder power, and Odin's like, you're the god of being evil and backstabbing people. Here, son. Like maybe he could have chosen something different. Like, Hela, you're the goddess of death. This is going to turn out so well. I don't know. They haven't really explained how these like aliens / gods decide what they're the god of.
Maybe it's more like what they're born with. So you might have like 5 gods of thunder because they all have lightning powers, but everyone has a slightly different name.
They're just mutants.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like, Asgard has clearly, in the Marvel Universe, has existed for like thousands of years. Like Odin and Thor and all of them are probably quite old. Mm-hmm. So they probably spent hundreds of years just sort of doing nothing before they figured out, like, oh, he likes to make tricks. He's the god of tricks, I guess. So anyway, after this, they venture forward to Earth in search of Odin, who isn't where Loki left him, at some sort of retirement home that's being knocked down. Conveniently, it's being knocked down like the day they come, which is weird. And then we learn that Jane dumped Thor, I guess probably because he hasn't been around for years, so she just sort of moved on, which makes sense. And people love Thor, but they don't seem to recognize Loki. I don't know how much TV coverage he got from the Avengers.
Maybe
it's
because
probably
he
for
looks
the best.
old now.
Maybe he's not wearing the horned helmet. Like if he's wearing the horned helmet, they'd recognize him.
More than likely, and it's more like, oh, it's just some weird guy in a suit. Okay, whatever.
Yeah, and then awesomely enough, Doctor Strange shows up and sends Loki into an eternal drop.
Definitely not expected that.
I love that scene so much. Because Doctor Strange obviously has control, not obviously, has a better control over his powers now. Still has a love of the portals. You get the idea that he could just fuck with people like he does with Loki. And when he lands, he's like, I was bowling for 30 minutes. It's so good. It's so good.
Yeah, it's great. And the like ever-filling beer, which is amazing.
Yeah,
Though they basically just reused that scene because they show it at the end of Doctor Strange.
Yeah, there were parts of that in there. But I think that must have been shot like while they were filming Strange. They shot that stuff, and with this, in the intention for this. Yeah. So I mean, this is cool, and like my wife went to see it with me, and she hadn't seen Doctor Strange or anything, and I think like even if you haven't seen that movie, you can follow along here pretty quickly. There's Sorcerer Supreme, yada yada yada. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, by the way, did anybody find the lead up to this scene very reminiscent of Sherlock Holmes? Because I thought them walking along the street towards the house, I'm like, man, this is giving me serious Sherlock Holmes
it was
vibes.
like called
and then we
Becker
walk in,
Street
and
or
I'm like,
something.
it is Sherlock Holmes.
It's like 70.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Like,
I
like
really
Becker Street.
Yeah.
I really just want what's his name, Martin Freeman to show up, or not, but like I want Black Panther to like summon Doctor Strange so we can get them both in the same room, you know.
That'd be
Yeah,
so good.
you probably in Infinity War they'll end up together. I don't know.
In
And
Infinity
they'll-
War, everyone's getting
They'll make
involved.
some sort of comment. Feels like I've met you
Yeah.
before. Yeah.
And then they both have to wink at the camera.
Yeah. Okay. Black Panther. There's another movie that I'm super excited about, and like
Yeah.
only because of that last trailer they dropped. That last trailer makes it look
Oh, it
just like amazing. So
I was getting hyped even
we'll
before
see.
that.
We'll see. I don't want to be disappointed, but like I have high hopes for that movie now.
You know, as well, with them linking actors in this, Carl Urban and Kate Blanchett were both in Lord of the Rings as well.
Mm-hmm.
And then they're both in this one as villain and lackey. I thought it was kind of funny.
Hugo Weaving. He was Red Skull, and he was also Elrond.
Yes,
Yep.
they have so many Lord of the Rings actors now.
And he's also Thanos.
They just have so many actors. They have people from every.
So yeah, it is the Marvel Universe, so they have like hundreds of actors.
Yeah, and this is why they have to kill some of them off, which we're about to get to. So we move on to Doctor Strange being like, "You're gonna leave Earth very quickly if I get you to Odin, right? Okay, here he is." And Odin is, I guess it looks like he's somewhere.
He's in Norway.
He's in Norway, yeah. You know, overlooking the water, and he's himself again. He broke out of Loki's spell, but just is like super depressed and about to die. And
I have a question. Isn't Odin immortal? I thought he was.
Yes.
Yes and
But-
no.
That's the whole. Like I think he's what he's saying here is that he's tired. He's just had enough, so he kind of just gives himself, like he just goes back to like maybe he's one with the Odin force, sort of like he lets himself pass, basically.
Like in the first movie, isn't
What?
there that whole
In
thing where it's like Odin
Odin
sleep?
sleep?
Yeah.
Exactly. Wasn't that to recover
Yeah.
from whatever stuff he's been doing for the last 100
Right.
years?
Maybe because he was in a retirement home without the proper
Yeah. So
facilities, he hasn't
every
been
so
able
often
to take an
he
Odin
has
sleep.
to go into Odin sleep, and he just like with him, it's one of those things where when he needs it, it just happens, and like he just goes into the Odin sleep sometimes. So, but I don't think that's the issue here. I think he just didn't want to go on.
Now he's
You know,
the Odin dust particles.
Yeah, he's like the Odin force. So, yeah, and this is kind of a moving scene, and we're saying goodbye to an actor and a character who maybe will appear again at some point, but it kind of makes sense. Yeah. So I mean, for Ragnarok to happen, Odin has to be gone. There's prophecies, all this stuff, and immediately Hela just shows up from wherever the hell she was.
Yeah.
Which is one of kind of the problems with this movie is that I don't understand where she comes from and how she gets right there, but then when she gets to Asgard, she can't get anywhere else. Like she seems to need like the Bifrost to travel.
Maybe she was imprisoned in
Yeah.
Odin's very spirit.
She was imprisoned inside him. He like trapped her in like a pocket dimension. Well, in the comics, they have like the White Hot Room or whatever it is, which is like a kind of like a blank space in like its own dimension where people get trapped. Like Loki puts people there, and Odin puts people there, and it's kind of a nothing space. But as we see later, it seems like she was somewhere, like when the Valkyries are sent to get her. And like in the mythology, I think she's the goddess of the dead, so she rules hell.
Yeah.
But she can't ever leave. Anyway, Loki's an idiot and gets scared after he sees Thor's hammer like explode. Whatever, dude, it's just a hammer. And tries to make a quick escape, which does not work well for anyone involved. Well, I guess it works well for Hela.
Yep.
So They fight their way up through the space tunnel, whatever the hell you want to call that.
The Bifrost.
And yeah, and in like a kind of a sci-fi trope, they get thrown out of the tunnel, the time tunnel, the space tunnel, whatever it is, and they're both thrown out kind of at different, you would think vastly different points, but they both arrive on the same planet, awkwardly enough. And Hela makes it all the way back to Asgard, where she immediately kills Volstagg and Fandral, and I don't even remember if they got a line. Holy crap.
More like a, what the? And then they die.
Yeah. And Scourge is like, I'm not going to challenge you. And she recruits him, and only him, very quickly. Because he's a warrior, but he also is a bit
the
scared
janitor
for his life. Yeah. He's the janitor of some badass armor and some M16s. And so she moves very quickly through the city and comes upon the army of Asgard, but she takes off all by herself. And we come to the last of the Warriors 3, Hogan, who has a slightly better showing, gets a couple of lines, but he dead as hell too. Yeah, so that kind of sucked. Yeah. What did you guys think? They died. It was kind of unceremonious the way they died.
Yeah.
I just wasn't. Oh. Go ahead.
It was never
didn't really
brought up
care.
again either. Like, they died. They're meant to be Thor's best friends, and then you don't hear anything else about it. It's like, your best friends just died. And
and you don't even see Sif anywhere or hear about her. I think the actress is, busy doing other things, but she's just nowhere.
I'm gonna say this now. I wasn't a fan of just anything really related with Hela. I felt the story was far more convincing when they were on what was the world called?
Sakar.
Sakar. I felt everything on Sakar was far more interesting than what Hela was doing.
Yeah.
And again, it's a supervillain who's evil because they're evil.
She's also been like trapped somewhere, probably alone for thousands of years. And she was like a murder, like a, kind of like an
executioner,
mass murderer beforehand, and then she was trapped alone. Like, that'd drive you crazy. Yeah, so she definitely is a bit unhinged.
With it, though, I think Cate Blanchett's performance is amazing, but I don't necessarily think her character's motivations or actions, I think it could have been better done. I think her performance is amazing,
I agree.
But I think what they wrote for her wasn't as amazing.
Yeah, I loved like the Hela stuff in this, but because Cate Blanchett was so good, and just visually, it was good, but her, just kind of her whole plots, wasn't. It was very cookie cutter, I will say.
I've heard some people say as well that this movie felt like two separate movies to them, that they could have had one for Planet Hulk, so on Sicario, and then have another one with Hela. And actually, yes, I think so. And I think the one with the Hulk and Thor on Sicario would have been very, very, very good.
Right.
And they could have fleshed it out enough to have its own.
The problem is
movie.
that like the Ragnarok movie would have probably sucked more had you not done that. And people had a very bad reaction to the Dark World, which was kind of, very serious and dark. And I enjoyed it, but like it wasn't the best of the Marvel movies. And this instantly is up there into like, for me, into like the top tier of the MCU. And I think tonally, the two realms are very different in their feel and maybe the quality of the plot itself. But I don't know. I think it works because they needed to do this. They wanted to destroy Asgard and kill off some people and have this happen. Thor needed to go through this transformation he goes through in this story. But they also didn't want to just focus on that. And I don't know. Like, I think it was the right choice to bring in the humor, to bring in like the vibrancy of Sakar and the Grandmaster and Jeff Goldblum. It was a good way to offset the fact that we just lost a bunch of characters. We lost like a whole world.
Sorry we had to make you watch a bunch of people die. Here's Jeff Goldblum being Jeff Goldblum, but in space.
We're gonna call it a tie.
I think this film not fails, but struggles in the same way that Age of Ultron did, because it's not an Age of Ultron, it's like 2 weeks of Ultron, and this is the same. We're told Hela is horrible and she destroys everything, and we see through Idris Elba's character everyone running away, and we see little bits of her evil on Asgard, but we actually don't get to see her evil master plan over months or a year or so, where it can be established as how horrible she is, kind of like with the time skip in A Song of Ice and Fire. You would have seen how horrible Cersei was at ruling, and that's the same problem with Age of Ultron. We didn't. I mean, come on, 2 weeks, maybe a stretch.
Age of Ultron
and this was the same. Yeah, you don't get to see the actual evil of them because there's no time for that to develop, and they kind of could have done that a bit more, because they did say on Sakar that time moves differently. So if they feel like it's been a week on Sakar, maybe it's been a year or so somewhere else. So
they kind of said it was the opposite, right?
Yeah, time moves more slowly there.
Yeah, like Loki got there like weeks before Thor did, and he like got shot out like a few seconds before he did out of the portal, right? So it seems that time is much slower on Sakar than it is everywhere else.
Yeah, so that would have kind of worked, because it meant if time was slower, they would have been there for a week or so, but elsewhere time had progressed significantly. And
it's the opposite.
Oh, the opposite way? Is it the opposite way?
Yeah. That's why when they keep flashing back, it's like Hela was at the bridge, then she's in the castle. It doesn't seem like very much goes on in Asgard, and it seems like they've been in Sakar for quite a long time. And I think that was purposeful, because they were like, well, we need to have a very quick resolution, and we can't give her too much time, or else we're going to ask why she didn't murder everyone in Asgard. But she only really kills the people that
she want to
fight her, right? Like she wants them to love her, because she's kind of, she's like, I thought you'd be happy, and then she just murders the whole army.
What would be the point
if we ever get the technology to do those frescoes? Oh my goodness. I must have.
Moving frescoes.
So I think like her plan was that she was going to take, she has her reborn army, and she wanted the rest of the Asgardians to go with her, and they were just going to conquer all the realms again, I guess?
Yeah, I feel like she wanted everyone to bend the knee, but because no one did, she's just like, well, you're all dead.
Yeah, and there's a major plot hole here that I noticed when watching the original Thor, is that she has Odin's staff, right? And so she's walking around with that. And in that movie, they clearly use Odin's staff, like Loki does at the end, to open the Bifrost, because Heimdall, I think, is still frozen at that point, maybe. And so he uses it like as part of his plot when he's going to destroy like the Frost Giant world. I'm like, wait a second. It seems maybe that was a key right there.
Maybe that was like a newer feature added after she was
they
imprisoned.
Had to rebuild it or whatever. Well, because it gets destroyed at the beginning of that movie, so you could say that. But I feel like Odin's the type of person that's like, yeah, my staff accesses everything, right? Like he's not going to have something that's cut off from him. But the whole point is so that
is password.
right. So that Idris Elba has some stuff to do and. Can hide all the people in. He's like, it's an ancient fortress. It's like, well, wouldn't she know, right? She's like ancient. No one remembers her, and these people live forever. That's another confusing thing.
Is this like the Númenóreans and the people they rule? Like they live way longer than the common people?
Oh well,
I never thought it was, but maybe.
I thought just like everyone was immortal. Like even like Brontis, the baker. He bakes forever.
Yeah, well, that's what I thought too. But obviously, since nobody remembers Hela, that means that...
Yeah.
I don't know.
Question, do you think Odin. As well Odin
Constant
might have
reincarnation? Oh, sorry, Sarah, sorry.
No, Odin might have put the other people to death or had them die out slowly, because like if he is actually super ashamed of what he did to come into power,
He murdered
everyone else
all of the
might have,
people that knew.
or they
No
might have all
loose
conveniently
ends.
died in battle, like pull a Roose
Yeah,
Bolton
yeah, 'cause
and
they
put them
can-
on the side.
They can die in battle. Yeah, I'm just saying
Yeah.
that. Quite
So-
easily.
And a lot.
Them. Oh my gosh. But there is, like, I think in the comic books, there's like a Ragnarok cycle kind of, where it's like Asgard is destroyed and reborn. You know, like it's happened several times or something. But here, yeah, I think they just wanted to blow that shit up. So, yeah, Hela's motivations just seemed to be kind of pissed off that she got banished. But she got banished because she was wanting to, like, murder whole civilizations, and Odin's like, I have enough gold, I'm tired of the genocide. I did enough genocide already. So Odin is kind of not the greatest, but we already knew that. Why did he stop at 9 realms? I don't know.
He got tired.
Yeah, he's like, I got a lot of gold, I'm okay now. Shiny things.
Enough to make my giant space organ.
I just needed I just need a little bit more for my eye patch once I lost my eye. Yeah, so Asgard doesn't. I mean, I don't know what they do in Asgard. There's not a lot of land. Like just
They rebel.
They just go, oh, like it's like an island. It's almost like a small island. And like, do they have animals, or where does all the food come from?
It reminds me of Dinotopia, okay, actually.
Dinotopia.
Yeah, you guys remember it was like a movie / mini series from early thousands, and there's dinosaurs, and it's the guy from Prison Break.
I mean, I only read the book. I didn't see any show or movie.
Really? The movie's fun
There's a
from what I
book?
remember from ages ago.
I liked the book because they had like diagrams of like machines they would use with the dinosaurs.
Memories from the early aughts are not always what you thought they were.
It's 2002. I would have been 7, so probably not.
Frosted tips, spiked hair, Britney Spears. What else was going on?
Fashion choices.
Wallet chains.
Wallet chains. That was like a late 90s, early 2000s thing, the wallet chains.
But weren't wallet chains practical? Because that way people couldn't pickpocket you?
Well, that was the idea, but it also tells them exactly where your wallet is. Just put it in one of your front pockets. You're good.
Exactly. And it gave people an easy handle to pull down your pants.
Pull your pants down. Yep, that is why they were banned at schools. Indeed.
That's my cue. Here I am. What the fuck?
Hey.
Hi, Amber.
Hello.
It is the Grand Amber.
That's me.
It's your birthday.
Really,
on that
I'm
note,
just here for backup recorder.
Yeah, he's so hot right now, backup recorder. Yeah, on that note, so we'll just say Hela enters Asgard, kills a hell of a ton of people, looking for
A Hela?
Heimdall's sword. Yep, I know, I had to make the joke. And reveals like some old paintings that probably should have just been painted over, not just hidden like that. I don't know. Revives the giant wolf Fenris and a whole bunch of like dead berserker soldiers. And we'll come back to that. Let's get to the part that we all want to talk about. Thor lands on the trash planet. Oh man, yeah.
Was it just me, or did this look a lot like Star Wars?
Yeah, like the newer ones.
The trash planet thing, actually, yeah. Or at least once you mention it, you can really see that really could be very similar.
If there was some lens flare, I would have been like, JJ! But, no. We're okay. So, like, yeah, the design of kind of the aliens and the ships and just kind of the filter they were using looked very much reminiscent of the newer movies.
Very bright colors.
Yeah. So he gets dumped down, and these people put him in a net, and the whole gang of people is going to get him. But no, Valkyrie shows up and is like, this one's mine, and she's drunk and silly, and alcoholism is not funny, but it's funny here. And she drops off her ship, and then her ship has guns, and she like murders, I don't know, like 100 people. It's crazy. It's crazy, but she's like our favorite character of the new characters, really. But she murdered a whole bunch of people right here. So I don't know. We'll have to figure out how we justify that.
I didn't think she murdered them. I took it more that she knocked them all out. But
she shot them with those big giant guns, and they all disintegrated, and like there was like blood splatter.
That was a powerful knockout.
Like they like exploded. She's like, I thought, well, you didn't see a bunch of like passed out bodies on the floor. You saw one guy who like avoided her barrage, and he was like, "Oh gosh, I'm about to die," and then she beats him up and left him, to live, I guess, so that others tell the tale and no one messes with her.
I think that's why I thought they were all knocked out then.
Yeah, and then she brings Thor in, and they're playing creepy like Disney World music, and the Grand Master is there, and he's got a melty stick, and he melts like, what was that, his cousin, and it's just crazy. And Loki's already been there for weeks, and he's like, keep quiet, because I'm working this Grand Master angle here.
Yeah, I really enjoyed like the introduction to the Grand Master is like it's a small world kind of ride, saying how great he is, and then it starts going real fast, and Thor freaks out, and he's just surrounded.
He's in the middle of a room.
Was that like just like a hallucination they put him through when they people first meet the Grand Master?
It's a brainwashing thing, obviously.
Obviously.
I was expecting Mugatu to show up,
I don't know who that is.
Oh my god.
Oh,
Zoolander?
come on. Zoolander.
You've seen Zoolander?
Oh, yeah, shoot.
Nope.
Yeah.
I'm gonna kill the Prime Minister of Sakar. Yeah.
If this movie was made like 10 years ago, Will Ferrell would have been playing him instead of Jeff Goldblum, right?
Probably. Yeah. And Jeff Goldblum was just, amazing. Like, just hilarious. He knocked it out of the park. Pretty much all of the new characters, the actors that they brought in for these major roles, I think did a great job. Like, this is a great job.
Interrupting a melting of fence? No, it's not.
He just keeps trying to hand him the melting stick.
I took it that so good. I think that Tessa Thompson and I forget her name, but the Grandmaster's sidekick with the melting stick.
Topaz.
Yes, Topaz. Topaz definitely has a thing against Valkyrie, like
100%.
Like she's just like, God damn it.
I love that part where he's like, what does it always say about number 40? What does it always say about her?
She's drunk.
Yeah, that she's useless, and no, I say that she brings me the best things. Why would you say this?
Why would I say that?
Because I hate her so much.
Oh man. Oh, I kind of just want to go watch the movie again right now.
I was gonna watch it again
Vessels
yesterday.
go to the theater.
But I didn't. I should have seen it yesterday.
Yeah, why don't we just live record from the theater, guys?
Ooh, that'd be fun. But I'd get kicked out.
That. Yeah, we'd all.
Yep.
Live record. We live like in 10 different time zones. I don't think that's possible.
We just gotta find theaters that are all showing the movie at the exact same time with the exact same amount of commercials. Just tell them, hey, can you pause it for a second? We're doing a commentary. Oh man. Anyway,
No, if we did this, it'd be more like someone would have to go in and then record it all, like illegally, and then play it for all of us, and then we watch it that way. But that's so illegal and naughty.
we never condone piracy, but yeah.
God.
Yeah, wouldn't that be great to just do like commentaries of movies that came out like yesterday and be like, listen to this while you're at the movie. It won't bother anyone else. You'll just hear us while you're watching it.
No, listen to this the second time you see the movie at the movies. Otherwise, you wreck it the first time.
Pop your headphones in.
We want to ruin it the first time. So the Grandmaster meets Thor, and he's trying to break out. Ooh, he's quite the specimen, and he's got the little thing in his neck that zaps him, which is really annoying for Thor because now he can't punch people, which is the thing he does the most. And he explains about the contest of champions, how he can win his freedom, and buys like he buys him for a ton of money. So Valkyrie is not a prisoner with job, and she has a ton of money. But like, what do they spend? Just booze? Like, what does she need all that money for if she just spends booze and works for the Grandmaster? Like.
Valkyrie is Rey from The Force Awakens, obviously.
But like, it seems like whatever he paid for Thor was like a huge sum of money, and but she seems like she's still running security for the fight, right? Like she's up there in her ship, just kind of running security when it goes down.
I didn't think it was that way. I thought it was more like she's up there catching a show and doesn't want to pay to go in.
Yeah, she's just watching from her ship.
Oh, well, I guess maybe.
And she is an Asgardian. Like, it must cost a lot to get them drunk. Like a lot.
Yeah.
Also,
drunk.
Shout out for the credited character named Beerbot 5000. That was my favorite.
Yeah, which one was that?
That was, she buys like several huge, like a 6-pack of like huge cans of like alcohol, and that bot is called Beerbot 9000, and I was just tickled when I saw that in theaters.
Yeah, so we get Thor in captivity and preparing for, the contest, and when he meets Korg, who is also another awesome new character. It's like which one of these new characters is my favorite? I can't even tell. He's hilarious.
Mikkel needs to watch it because she did a very good Australian accent last time I was on a thing.
She went over the weekend. I thought maybe she'd be on, but she I think she's busy. So
yeah,
she does a great English accent.
Yeah, I want to hear a Kiwi accent after watching this a couple of times. But I've heard Korg, described as a friendly Kiwi bouncer, and that's exactly it.
Yeah, what did he say? That he was
friendly
like
Kiwi
he was like,
bouncer.
He's like, I tried to start a revolution, but I'm the only one that showed up. So
I didn't hand out
fighting the contest of champions.
Not enough flies.
It's like his mom and his stepdad turns up.
Oh man, yeah. He doesn't really say how he got there in the first place, but that was pretty funny. So I do like,
and the best Monya jokes. God, there was so many. Getting tossed off by your hammer, strap it to your back. And then at the end, he's just like, it sounds like you had a very deep relationship with your hammer, and losing it is akin to losing a loved one.
Yeah, I love how he's got he has like these very deep thoughts, and then like yeah.
But before that was like a solid minute of hammer sex jokes, which is funny in itself because Mjolnir in the Norse mythology is a shorter hammer because Loki messed with it when it was getting made, and it's kind of a joke on Thor's masculinity. He has the
like
short
a war
sword.
Hammer would be a two-handed, like large hammer, but Loki made sure that the dwarves made the hilt too small, so he just can wield it with one hand instead.
Yeah, like the cricket in Men in Black. Will Smith.
Yeah, but that's also dangerous. It's small, but it's dangerous.
What voice are you doing now?
What do you mean?
You're like, it's small, but it's dangerous.
He's just thinking about other things that are small and dangerous.
Yep, and nope.
Gross.
So moving on, we finally get to the scene that was, I guess you could say the trailers spoiled this in a way. The trailers, I guess, spoiled a lot about what was going to happen, but it also made us much more excited to see the movie. So he enters the arena and finds, Hulk, and he's like, I know him from work, and we're buddies, but Hulk's not really a buddy, and then they have a fight, and then Thor's totally going to win, but then the Grandmaster cheats, and that kind of sucks.
But he's protecting an investment.
Well, also,
if
you realize that, like, the Hulk's so badass, and like Thor couldn't kill him or anything. Maybe he could defeat him, but realizing you have a challenger that can defeat your champion is like, oh shit, I don't want to fuck this up on the first fight. Like, I gotta get him to start, fighting some scrubs too, right? It's the way you make the money. But also, okay, so who bets on this? Like, I think in the comics, there's like people from around the galaxy that bet on this or something. But like most of the people in Sakar are slaves, and
prisoners with jobs.
Prisoners with jobs. I'm sorry, and like I guess there is a ruling class. Yeah, I don't know.
It'd have to be the ruling class who are making the bets, but like you're saying, is anyone from the galaxy joining in and making bets? We don't know.
Because it's also a trash planet that time seems to run a little differently there, and it seems like they can't build buildings in certain areas because stuff is falling out of those wormholes. Like, for instance, I don't think there are any homes near the Devil's Anus. Oh man, yeah. So I don't know. It's kind of weird that the society even exists the way it does in this world without, the buildings collapsing all the time from meteors.
When like the Grandmaster is explaining like how time works, he's like, "Why, if I was from your land, I would be," and then he just leaves it,
he just
and then they just moves on.
Just like, I don't want to think about how old I am, okay? Like, whew.
But at one point, so like after this fight, when we see like Hulk's in the hot tub, and in my theater it was very dark. I didn't realize that was Hulk at first. And like I think they're looking out the window talking about escaping or something, and there's a ship just flying, and then like a meteor hits it and it explodes, just like as background dressing. I was like, what the hell is going on this world?
Everyday stuff.
Somehow the Quinjet is sitting there like untouched. I don't know.
Yeah. And there's
I don't get how the
Hulk dick thing, which I was just like, okay, why not? Never had thought of
Hulk's butt, yeah.
Hulk smash.
No.
Okay, I get it.
Yeah. And then Thor looking quite embarrassed about his junk. Yeah.
Do you think they're doing this because they're trying to sort of have the Hulk having a romance now? So it's more of a we're going to sexualize Hulk.
Well, kind of. And so let's take a minute and talk about what they did with Hulk in this movie. And one thing, like Amin asked a couple questions on the forums. One of the things he asked was, like, is Hulk dating Valkyrie? I didn't get that impression, although I guess I
thought they were more just like
way.
buddy, like,
yeah,
hey,
it was
we'll
like,
kick the crap out of each other.
She was like, oh, little Hulk, like, he's kind of very simple, and she seemed to have some sort of kinship with him, maybe because he doesn't judge her for her alcoholism.
I actually thought Hulk and Thor and Valkyrie had kind of a moment when they jumped out of the ship.
Oh, I definitely feel that Thor and Valkyrie might have something in the future now that we might not get Natalie Portman back.
Yeah, and I guess there was like also Valkyrie had like a bisexual scene that was moved. I think maybe during the bar scene or something. And I guess they said they removed it just because it didn't fit with the flow or the exposition or something.
Yeah, at the same time,
in the comics, I think she's bisexual, right?
Yeah,
that's the whole thing. Yeah.
But at the same time, like in some of the scenes, I kind of got that vibe from her.
Same.
Because like you see her like lounging next to some women as well, like at some point, and like when the Valkyries are all being kind of annihilated, you see her reaching for one specific Valkyrie who's getting killed, and I kind of got
like
that
the girl who protects
impact.
her.
Mm-hmm. I got.
I think she said that they actually recorded a scene where
they did.
Yeah, they did. I think in the bar, and it just ended up being cut.
Yeah.
But they'll probably add it in to the special features or something when they do release it on video.
More than likely.
So see it in the end.
I think the Valkyrie and Hulk thing, it might not necessarily be that they're a relationship, but I could see the Hulk potentially liking Valkyrie.
Oh yeah.
Definitely, because
hard-hitting woman, she smashes, he smashes, it's all good.
And as well, she treats him as the Hulk like a human being, and he didn't really have that on Earth at all. Like, when he was the Hulk, no one wanted to be around him.
Right.
So, like, you could definitely see why.
And so in the comics, like they're for years they're on a team together. They're the Defenders, like Hulk, Valkyrie, Doctor Strange, and Namor, the Submariner. Like that's all. They have a little team and they do things. But I think it's interesting here. So Hulk, up until this point in the MCU, has been Hulk for an hour at a time, at the most, right? When he's with the Avengers or stopping a rampage or going on a rampage. And not a lot of his personality has come out. Like, he didn't ever talk very much. And here it's been, I think Thor says that it's been like 2 years since like the Age of Ultron stuff. But he's probably been on Sakar a lot longer. If time moves faster there. So he could have been the Hulk for like 5-10 years. Who knows at this point?
Which is kind of, but I think it's been described as Hulk's kind of Hulk's at a toddler's mentality, which you see with his little tantrums and all that kind of thing, and he's able to develop friendships now. But it's why they have to go the Valkyrie Thor route and not the Valkyrie Hulk route, because that is weird. Because he's not quite there yet. Maybe if he was Hulk for a little bit longer.
Right.
And I also like how they flipped it as well. So Bruce Banner is quite frazzled after
he's about to have a heart attack.
He's not at his like peak Bannerness, right? He's just
Why are you dressing me up like Tony?
Working up from a drug induced. Yeah, but I did like that Hulk, Banner, and Valkyrie all the way through we know each other. How we But that's why they have to go Valkyrie Thor, because the other way is just super creepy.
Oh,
right,
and illegal.
In the comic, well,
no, you go, because my point's not. This point isn't really about Hulk and Valkyrie, but it's more about Hulk and him staying as Hulk rather than reverting back to Banner.
Yeah, well, that's what I was going to say as well, just about the variations over the years with him being Hulk in the comics, right? So he's been, over the years, there was the dumb Hulk who would just show up and destroy everything, was kind of a villain, and then he would be more heroic and like would gain more control. And I think eventually it was developed that like the Hulk is actually a separate personality. There were points where the Hulk and Banner were completely split, where the Hulk was very intelligent, or where Banner had complete control and was the Hulk. A lot of what this is based on, like the Planet Hulk storyline, he was the Hulk for like years, just the Hulk. And that all came of the Avengers getting upset at him after destroying one too many cities and launching him on a rocket, which landed on this planet. So
Gets married, has a kid. Gets destroyed, goes back, World War
gets his wife killed, and comes back and like is gonna kill like all the people that sent him away, and basically nearly destroys the world. So.
Oh, kitty.
Yay.
Okay. How about I talk about cheery point?
Go ahead.
So with the Hulk staying as the Hulk rather than reverting back to Banner, I almost wonder if it's because everyone on Sakar refer to him as the Hulk rather than as Bruce Banner, and it's constantly being reinforced that he is the Hulk, and everyone cheers for him to be the Hulk. And have you noticed during the scene where Thor and the Hulk, after he reverts back to being Bruce Banner, are walking the streets, and then the Grandmaster has everyone out looking for the Hulk, and they're calling his name.
Celebrating, and
it's like, I think Bruce struggles a bit more then, like the Hulk's trying to come out, and I think it is because everyone appreciates him, the Hulk, there, and that's why the Hulk is so strong there, because it is being constantly reinforced.
Yeah, I think it probably, I'd love to, like a Planet Hulk movie would have been pretty cool, but I'd love to see how, like, what went down you know, when he got there, because it probably started as, you know, the jet crashes or whatever, and he stays the Hulk because he's on a new planet, he's scared, you know, maybe he smashes some stuff, and then like he just is in that heightened state, so he doesn't revert back to Banner, and eventually, you know, it seems, I don't know if they captured him or like somehow they convinced
Valkyrie
him to fight in this, but like, but usually you would think if she captured him, he would revert back to Banner, but somehow like they captured him like as Hulk. Yeah, I don't know.
Unless it was more like in a cage rather than with an electric device in his neck.
Yeah, because he didn't seem to have
one,
right?
He didn't have one. So whether they brought him in a cage or something like that.
Or maybe it's like a Beauty and the Beast thing where she like tamed him, you know, like she captured him by being his friend and then brought him in and said, "Hey, you want to fight? You love fighting. I got a place where you can fight all the time." And
so being incredibly manipulative
was like, cool.
and making money off your friends, that's a great thing.
Well, you know, again, she's not like a paragon. Let's be honest. She's an alcoholic who works for a slave merchant and doesn't really seem to care about the world.
Yeah, but like Hulk and Valkyrie are at least sort of friends though, so later on, so
right.
I hope it isn't that.
Well, that's why I thought like because they're friendly in training, like maybe she found him and, you know, convinced him to play in the games or something, you know, because it seems like it's a regular thing where she shows up and they have their sparring and all that.
Yeah, but they also might just have a sparring match because they're more equally matched than everyone else there.
Yeah, we don't get to see any other, like, it would have been nice if maybe they had some, like, archive footage of, like, you know, the greatest Hulk fights or something, and they dropped some Marvel characters or something, or some teases. Like, on the tower where the Hulk lives there, the Grandmaster's Arena, there are some Easter eggs there. I think you see, like, Man-Thing, and Beta Ray Bill, and I think maybe Ares was on there. And these are all, like, you know, immensely powerful, you know, Marvel characters that we haven't seen. Beta Ray Bill is kind of like a horseman-looking character that has the power of Thor, essentially.
So a centaur with lightning?
Kind of. Well, what it is like he's an alien who is he travels on this ship. His whole, like, it's like sort of like a Battlestar Galactica thing, where like his whole race is, you know, a migrant space race. And at some point when Thor is like traveling the cosmos, you know, he comes across them and like he's able to pick up Thor's hammer, and Thor's like, what the fuck? And so like I think Odin rewards him by giving him a hammer of his own.
For picking up this hammer, I give you another hammer.
That looks slightly different but does most of the same things. Yeah. And I guess I don't think this is anything from the comics, but here the hammer is not really where the power comes from. The power was inside you all the time, Thor.
You just had to believe in yourself.
Yeah, unlock the lightning within, bro. Yeah. So this is all
Loki. As soon as Thor and Hulk are in the arena together, and he's just, I have to get off this planet, and the body language and everything. And
it was so good.
Yeah, it was perfect.
When Thor gets
I also
gets
love
body
how,
slammed.
Like Loki's been there for a few weeks, and he's like, "Yeah, I've never seen this champion," but it seems like everyone knows it seems like it would have been very easy for him to research and realize it's the Hulk. But I guess there hasn't been like a worthy opponent the whole time he's been there. But the best part was when like he starts like slamming Thor around like a rag doll, and Loki's like, "Yes, that's what that feels like." And the Grandmaster gives him this look like, "What is going on?"
But as well, because they are brothers, and I think Loki isn't as physically strong as Thor, so it's more like, yeah, you take that, you get beaten up this time, suck it. I thought it was kind of funny.
I did enjoy the sorry, bit of a sidetrack, but Thor and Loki were kind of fantastic this movie. Thor talking about how one time Loki turned into a snake, and you think it's going to be so he can kill Thor, but it kind of is. But he's like, he did it because he knew how much I like snakes, and then he turned back and stabbed me.
Yeah, that's great. He's like, he knew I
And
love
then-
snakes, so I went to pick it up.
And then when Hela's working on the Bifrost, and Loki's like, we're not doing Get Help. Just
Yeah, let's do Get Help.
My brother. Throws in.
Oh, Get Help, we're under attack. And he's like, no, it's humiliating. Not for me.
No, but the thing is, why don't they ever change it up, like, sometime? Because Thor doesn't want to, and he's the older brother, obviously.
Right,
But still,
right. He's the beefcake.
Wouldn't it be believable? Yeah, like if something could lay out Thor, it definitely ate Loki first, right?
then
Loki
you
would just stab
turn
Thor in the
Loki
back.
in, like, you turn Loki into the Hulk. He just transforms into the Hulk for a minute and does Get Help. Believable. Full sentences and everything.
Good work.
Not really. It still wouldn't be
But I mean,
believable at all.
I did like the fact that they went back to that brother relationship. Yeah, you notice they have that a bit of a reconciliation in the last movie, but then it ends with Loki pretending to die and then mind wiping Odin and sending him to Earth. So lots for Thor to be angry about when his dad dies, like immediately upon seeing him again. But it reminds us that like for hundreds or thousands of years or however long they've been around, you know, these two brothers actually did spend a lot of time together, and as much as they fought, they also fought together against other people, and there was that like camaraderie there. Yeah, I mean, Loki, you know, he swings back and forth a lot between like super evil and I'm gonna help, you know. So
Yeah,
well, that's
but
the character of Loki in mythology.
yeah, and it's great that Thor kind of like uses that against him here as well.
Yeah, but as well, it really shows that they are brothers first. And, like, no one's perfect, and you might have a sibling who does go off and, like, is Loki. But they're still your sibling, for the most part, unless they're adopted. Then you can.
Yeah, and I did think the part kind of sucked when Loki betrays him again, and he's like, "Sorry, you know, I'm calling for the Grandmaster." I'm like, that just felt like I don't know. It felt like they wanted to do that betrayal again and then bring him back and all this or whatever, but it didn't feel like a moment where Loki would have done that. Like, it didn't really seem to be advantageous for him to do that at all, even if it had worked.
Why so evil, Loki? Why?
Yeah, like Loki, the only thing that would have made sense with him staying on Sakar is if he murdered the Grandmaster. I mean, that's it. In the comics, the Grandmaster is like one of like the ancient beings. You know, he's like, I don't know what it takes to kill him.
He's the brother of the Collector. I think they're going to do that in the movies as well. So there might be a delightful and very bizarre scene with I just forgot his name. Yeah, Del Toro and Goldblum, which would be fantastic.
Antonio Banderas. I like those commercials. One thing I want to say is that so clearly that a lot of this movie, like the destruction of Asgard, where they're holding the cosmic cube, which is one of the Infinity Stones, right, is necessary for Infinity War, which is coming up. But unlike some of the Marvel movies, like personally, I didn't feel that this was like weighed down by like, oh look, there's the tie-in for this movie and like it didn't feel like they were trying to like stitch it all together and force in like the next bits for the other Marvel movies. It still felt to me mostly Thor centric, and I mean even like with
tied it all
Doctor
in
Strange
in the mid-credit scene.
Right, they tied it in the mid-credit scene, and then. I mean, but also at the same time, this movie wouldn't be possible without all the previous movies, right? Like without, the Guardians of the Galaxy, which I think heavily influenced this movie, and then Doctor Strange directly, who shows up, the past Avengers movies. Like, there's a lot of groundwork that's laid where they don't have to waste time doing that background work. They just assume that you've seen a fair amount of those movies and you'll get certain things. And even if you don't, it just kind of takes you along. Like I said, like you didn't have to see Doctor Strange to just go, oh, look, here's this guy. He's got magic powers. Cool, right? But I know like that was the problem with me. Like Iron Man 2, Age of Ultron, like it felt like a lot of like, okay, well this is just like an intermediary. This is like a setup for the next thing, and this felt like almost like if there are no more Thor movies after this, like Thor specific movies, even though it does end on a cliffhanger, you kind of feel like there was a bit of resolution to like to his arc anyway, right? Like finding his power within himself. Asgard's destroyed. I mean, you assume something's got to happen with his people, obviously, but like we'll probably see that in Infinity War.
Yep, they might all move to Norway
or Oklahoma, which is where they moved in the comics, I think. Yeah, like in the comics,
having
I think it was
pictures
Oklahoma.
of Thor riding a horse, singing that opening song from Oklahoma.
Well, it was actually, I think, like the whole of I think after Ragnarok, like Asgard is reborn, like hovering above, like the plains in Oklahoma, and that's just where it's located. But I think that was a number of years ago. So,
what I really liked was when Hela's going through the vault and she pushes over like an infinity gauntlet, and she's like, "This one's fake." Fake.
Yes.
Odin has a lot of fake shit in here. And she even looks at the cosmic cube. She's like, "Oh, I mean that's interesting, but not really that powerful." And just like passes it by. But I mean, I guess because in the original Thor movie, we saw that Infinity Gauntlet just very briefly, and it's meant to be an Easter egg that people have pointed out. Before Thanos and all this stuff was really even set up in any of the other movies. So it's nice that they kind of, hang a lantern on it and be like, yeah, that's not real. Obviously, that's not real. So.
Yeah.
So what do you think at the end, by the way? Like, do you think Loki takes the cube with him?
Yeah, definitely.
Do you think he takes the casket of infinite winter or whatever that is, the frost giant thing? I mean, that's what they were warning.
I think he took Hermione's handbag of holding, bottomless pit, and just went
just took it all.
Yeah.
Whatever's in here is coming with me. Because those are things you can't replace.
It would be actually really good if he did, so Hela doesn't get them if she does survive, and they don't get destroyed. So.
Right.
Take those priceless artifacts.
That is another question that Amin asked. Is Hela dead? Well, she's probably hella dead. Anyway.
Okay. I was listening to Mr. Sunday Movies, their podcast on Thor, and they brought up a really good point because Thanos in the comic books is in love with Death, which also happens to be the same Death that Deadpool's in love with, but I'm very sure they're not going to be doing that crossover because that would be bizarre. But they did mention how interesting it would be if Hela, as a goddess of death, became the death that Thanos fell in love with. And I thought that was such a fascinating thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's the comics, so no one dies if you don't want them to. Yeah, I mean, I would say she's dead, but if they want her to bring back, she's back. But if the actress doesn't want to come back, she's dead forever. I don't know.
As well, with Hela and her power and her being the goddess of death, I don't feel like she's really a goddess of death because she has to use like the all fire or whatever it's called to bring things back from the dead. She can't kill things with like a snap of her fingers. So unless she herself cannot die unless she wants to die, which would be cool. Then I'd be like, okay, you get to be a goddess of death if you can't be killed. But.
Yeah, this was a bit different. Like, so, like, I think in the comics, it's like she rules hell, and like she can revive stuff that's there, like wherever it's like wherever that is. So when people die, they go down there, and she revives people and tortures them, and she has her minions, and like the Valkyries bring the dead people to her, right?
Yeah.
But it was kind of nice to see that like they had Valkyries at one point, and I guess never rebuilt them after the massacre, which sucks. But yeah,
maybe
so
they couldn't.
The mythology was real, right?
Yeah. No, but maybe they couldn't rebuild the Valkyries because if they think all of them are dead and then presumably no one else knows how they were trained or any of that sort of thing.
And all the Pegasi are probably dead.
Yeah.
This is the first movie I've seen where a puppy is being brutalized and I wasn't upset. And I didn't expect that to happen. That was nice.
Well, Fenris.
Yeah, it was.
The wolf.
Hulk
Oh,
versus
yeah.
the wolf. Yeah, normally I'm such a sucker. Like, can't even, even in jerky ways like this. And it was kind of nice. I enjoyed Hulk versus the dog.
Yeah, that was a good use there. Let's get to that. Just in the story, let's kind of fast forward. We've got the fight and the breakout, and Loki betrays them, and they convince Valkyrie to join them, and they have a team which doesn't need a name, and they decide to steal the Grandmaster's ship because it's got all the upgrades and can totally fly through the anus. But it doesn't have any weapons on it. It just has a lot of hilarious buttons. And yeah, I mean, probably the best line of that whole thing when he's like, "What is? Oh, he uses it for his orgies." It's like, "Don't touch anything."
I was waiting for the black light
oh my
joke.
Gosh. I was waiting for like disco lights to come on, a bed to come up or something, or I don't know. Yeah.
Shag carpeting to just come out from the ground somehow. A water bed descends from the roof.
I almost after that movie I was at the store and they have like a Lego set that has that ship in it. I'm like, I want to buy it just for the ship. I'm sure my son will appreciate it. He doesn't know what it is, but
all the ships are named after Holden cars. You have the Tirana, the Commodore. There's another one in there. So yeah, and the Commodore is the colors of the indigenous flag because Taika Waititi is fucking awesome and was just like, no, I'm just gonna have fun. Yeah, so it's the yellow, red, and black, and he did it on purpose because a couple of weeks ago he did a massive because he's moldy, so he did a big thing for an anti-racist campaign, and it's the funniest anti-racist campaign I've ever seen. And it's so very, very good. Just because he has to be even more brilliant than we already thought he was. Yeah. Anyway.
As well.
Fangirl crush, my bad.
No, but he is awesome. Mum actually noticed. Okay, I have 2 points with what you were saying. First one, Australiana moment. Mum actually noticed that there was a reference to the castle in this because someone says, "Tell him he's dreaming," but it's more like, "Tell him he's dreaming." And then that's from the castle. And she also said it's kind of funny because Eric Bana, who was the Hulk in the Incredible Hulk, I think it was.
The Ang Lee version.
Yeah, he was actually in the castle, so Mum thought it was extra funny.
Oh, yeah. That's like some deep cut Easter eggs there. Yeah.
Yes. And as well, I think this movie has a lot more diversity in it than any of the other Thor movies. Like, a lot more diversity. Because all of the other Thor movies have been very, very Caucasian. Like, incredibly white.
I mean, because it's like, Scandinavian background. But I mean, they cast Idris Elba. And that was kind of the main one, I guess.
Yeah, and there's one of the Warriors 3, but their role is
but Hogan
tiny.
was that's always what he was in the comics, So I think that kudos to them. They did a great job. Like Tessa Thompson as Valkyrie. Like I'm trying to think. I know I've seen her in things.
She was in
He was also Westworld. Yeah.
She was in the movie version of Dear White People, and there's a movie about marijuana she was in.
A movie about marijuana she was in.
From a few years ago,
that one movie
and it was
about marijuana.
Some kid who took a backpack and it accidentally was someone else's backpack and they had marijuana in it. And then he's like, what the hell am I meant to do with this shit? I can't remember the name.
I can't remember the name either, but I do.
What was that called?
And
Yeah,
she was
I do
in.
remember Westworld. Yeah.
She's in Creed as well.
Oh yeah, okay. Yeah, because she was the love interest in that.
Yeah,
That was
I
a
didn't
great
like
movie.
her music in that. I didn't like the music. Sorry, but yeah. But that doesn't really matter, does it?
Oh, you know what I'm thinking? Okay, she was in Veronica Mars, like forever ago. I'm like thinking like I saw her in something way, way a long time ago. Yeah, she was in Veronica Mars.
Every time I see Carl Urban, I think of him as Cupid in Xena, and then Julius Caesar also in Xena.
Way
And
back.
it was, yeah, so I do the same thing. I know I should be thinking like Dredd and
Yeah, well, Dredd,
the
you never see his
Rohan
face,
guy.
but
Yeah.
he's done great. And so, so does he ever kill any of the Asgardians in this movie? Like he's about to cut off, she wants him to cut off that lady's head, and he ends up not having to do it. But
I don't think he does. I think he just stands around a lot.
And so he's playing Scourge. So Scourge in the comics is someone who has been dead for a very long time. He's one of the few comic deaths that actually has stuck. And he was just basically kind of like a random Thor bad guy who hung around with I think the Enchantress, who is someone that hasn't shown up in any of these movies. But it's kind of the same thing where he died, like he was a bad guy who kind of redeemed himself. I think fighting Hela actually, but he died, fighting, Army of the Undead or something like that, kind of the same way. And he had the machine guns and all that, which was great. So,
how much of a redemption is it really when they're climbing onto the ship, which they'll eventually kill him anyway? So just stepping forward with his guns doesn't really.
Well, and at that point, he probably didn't even need to jump off of the ship to achieve that. So it him hiding on the ship, with the cloak, was kind of oh man, that kind of sucks. I was hoping that he was just going to show up on the bridge and start doing something, but I guess they thought this was a better moment because they wanted. I think that's kind of actually shot for shot, kind of from the comics, like him midair, with the guns and stuff. Which ironically, again, a lot of this stuff was in the trailers and the TV shots, which were very deceptive. Like it showed Hela, she shows up and she's like, Asgard's dead, and it shows the thing exploding, and you're like, oh, so early on, she must destroy Asgard. And it never happens, right? It's not even her that does it in the end.
Yeah.
And then they show Thor jumping onto the bridge, after he's gotten woke with his lightning, and he's got both eyes are all lit up with the lightning, versus by that point he's already lost one eye in that movie itself. So it's interesting how they changed little things in the trailers and in the promos to hide some of the spoilers while still showing a ton of spoilers. A lot of the shots from the trailers were straight up the last 10 minutes of the movie, but you wouldn't know that until you got there.
People kind of said that they revealed that it would be Hulk in the trailer. The champion would be Hulk. But I don't see how they could have promoted the movie without telling people that Hulk is going to be there.
I mean, because people were going to figure it out eventually. And I think leading with that and being oh my gosh, Hulk is here, because you already kind of knew he was going to be around. I think that was the right move. Sometimes the best way to get people interested is to put up those little teasers like that, and it also stops the rumor mills and and whatnot.
Yeah, and with this movie as well, I think, like you're saying, a lot of the spoilers are from all the fight scenes, and because there aren't that many action scenes, you see a lot of the different action scenes through it, so things aren't necessarily super surprising that way. And what I've noticed, one of the YouTubers I follow, Beyond the Trailer, they did a review of this movie, and they said it's really annoying for them because they changed a lot of the backgrounds from the trailers in the movies. A lot of the backgrounds changed, so all of their trailer analyses, they don't matter anymore because nothing takes place where they thought it was. And
so this is ironically one of the worst scenes, I think, where you could kind of see the seams in the visual effects was where Odin dies. Like, it just didn't look like they were there at all. I don't know if they were there or not, but it looked like the whole thing was green screen, and they're just sitting on a cliff overlooking the water. You're like, this shouldn't look green screen. And if you look at like the trailers and stuff, you see Hela where she's transforming, and it looks like she's like in an alley in New York. Like, it looks like a completely different location where she's never at in the movie. So it's like, was that just a choice where like they changed where that scene was going to be, or was that just a misdirection, or I don't know.
Yeah, and as well, I really agree with what Beyond the Trailer said about this with that scene, and saying, I don't know why they couldn't have sent a small team off to Norway to actually film it and do it there, because as well, it's all based on Scandinavian mythology and like Norse mythology, and they can't even fly a few people to that place. Instead, they just decide to green screen it all.
It's
and
your
I don't
one
understand
shot that's there.
why. Like, it's your only shot in all of it that's actually there. And
it must have been cheaper somehow. Like, it just must have been cheaper. And they clearly didn't want to spend a ton of money.
Yeah, and it depends when you decided to do it. So, because you definitely can see the seams around Hela when she's destroying Monia. So I feel like it must have been done at the 11th hour. So when it comes to filming in different countries, there's permits and tax and all that kind of thing. They might have actually ran out of time to send people there. Like, they just couldn't get the clearance. So,
or maybe they weren't sure where they wanted to have it. Like, maybe they shot the scene not knowing where it was going to be. Yeah.
But I am glad that they did do some misdirects, because Marvel needs to stop making me so excited about characters losing limbs, because after Defenders spoilers, Defenders, it's been out for a while, that's fine.
I still haven't seen it, but I'm not in any rush, so go for it.
Lucky ears. If you want. So Misty Knight finally loses her arm, and I was so excited. I was so excited.
So does Stick.
Oh, the glow thing. Yeah, I was so happy, and I shouldn't have been so happy that. And it was the same with Thor, because one of my favorite Thor comic books is God of Thunder, the God Butcher saga, which is just amazing artwork. Some of the best watercolors in comics after Alex Ross. How do I say his name? I said Rubio, and he is missing an arm in that, and he's missing an eye, and it was just so exciting to see Thor lose an eye, because I'm horrible, but
Thor in the comics, he becomes unworthy and can't lift Thor and loses an arm, or can't lift Mjolnir and he loses an arm, and then Jane Foster becomes Thor, and all kinds of stuff happens.
I wish I had issues with, not with female Jane Thor, Foster? But with
in the comics, she when they kind of rebooted or whatever it was a number of years ago,
female Thor.
She became the new Thor. Like, it was this big mystery of like who's the new Thor, and because like she was shown as like dying of cancer, and then it was like this misdirect. She becomes Thor, and Falcon becomes Captain America.
And you get She-Hulk.
She-Hulk's been around since the 70s, so.
Yeah, She-Hulk was the last character created by Stan Lee. When Bruce Banner had to give blood to his cousin, to save her life, and we've learned that his blood should not be left around anywhere.
I feel like he's
2012.
Right? Yeah, except in Old Man Logan, and that's why he should be celibate.
Oh gosh. In Old Man Logan, he his gamma radiation, so he kills the people he sleeps with.
But I think he kidnaps. I've just forgotten She-Hulk's name. No, it's gone. Kidnaps She-Hulk and has a family with her, and they're all inbred and nasty.
Gross.
Yeah, he has like the Hulk gang. It's like a bunch of hillbillies, and that's Old Man Logan. It's like an alternate thing. And Jennifer Walters, that's her name. His cousin. Yeah.
But yeah,
so,
Nadia,
another great
I
character.
agree with you. Yeah. When you said not revealing Hulk would have been nice, but it would have been really hard to promote. It's kind of like the opposite of Civil War, because I would have been so excited to go in there and not realizing Spider-Man. Because if Spider-Man wasn't revealed in the trailers, I think that would have been one of the best reveals in a comic book movie ever.
But you couldn't have
so
kept that out.
exciting.
You couldn't have kept that out because just the industry news of like them getting Spider-Man, like it's just such a big deal that they could use him again. You couldn't have hidden that, But it's like Iron Man 3 where they're like the Mandarin is here. Oh, the Mandarin is the villain. You're like, oh.
But then you could still have the suspense of whether are they going to start using him in this movie or are they going to wait for a solo Spider-Man movie? Exactly. You exactly know if he was going to be in this movie, right?
But I mean, I'm just saying, like, that's the way it used to be. Like, the way it used to be is people filmed movies and you saw it when it came out, and they had magazines maybe where you could read up on it. Now they paparazzi follow people at the airport, and like everyone knows who's shooting where, and whether it's your favorite TV show or your favorite movie, there's just potential spoilers all over the internet now because people just want to know all the things. For some reason.
Which is also kind of upsetting because if you don't want to know everything and if you do want to go in blind for a movie, it can be very hard to. Like, I know for me personally, I watch the first trailer of something, and if I really want to see it, I stop watching trailers there. Otherwise, I might watch the second or third one and see. But, like, as soon as I decide I really want to see a movie, I stop watching trailers for it so I don't get spoiled or try not to.
I have no self-control, so.
I think some of the only movies that you really come into fresh nowadays are kind of those movies that go a little bit under the radar. That like your Harry Potter, your Hunger Games, or something before it really hits. Like maybe there are some people that know it's going to be a phenomenon, but they don't really know. The public's not into it, so people aren't craving, like the clicks aren't going to be there if you post an article on your website, so people aren't covering it as much. And you go in and you're like, oh my gosh, so and so was in this, and like you're surprised by all these amazing things. But then by the time the sequel comes out, it's like everything about it. So
yeah, it's kind of unfortunate, but as well, that's also why with the more art house or Oscar bait films, like I think it's a lot easier to go in not knowing much about those ones because they aren't covered as much.
Right. And then, yeah. Like a lot of times, like, what's the plot about that? Everyone says it's great, but I don't even know if I want to see it. I can't figure out what it's about.
Yeah, which can be the trouble sometimes. It's like I need to know just enough to get me interested in seeing it, otherwise I might not even see it. So.
Yeah, I think that was like Manchester by the Sea. I'm like, everyone loves this movie, but I don't get what it's about. Until I saw it, I was like, oh, okay. I was like, I don't know what I was expecting. Sometimes you have expectations based on nothing, and they end up being extremely different from reality. So.
Yep. But then again, that's like where your imagination starts off because it's like you don't know enough, so you start inventing things. Headcanon.
Yeah, which is why to me, like, spoilers are not like a big deal. I don't really believe in the concept of spoilers in general, because if you have a 2-hour movie or a 10-hour TV season and you read one little detail or whatever, you don't know how that's happening. You don't know, your mind is going to come up with something that'll actually be completely different from what you end up seeing. So very rarely does it ruin anything, because if the storytelling is good, then you can't really ruin a story.
Yeah, but that's
it won't
the
rely
point.
on that.
If the storytelling is good, and I think for some things the storytelling isn't necessarily great, and they do rely a lot on big ticket moments. So if you are told like a few of those, then most of the movie's wrecked, and you're like, well, that's great. I just blew like $20 to see this movie, and I found out everything about it online.
Right. I mean, because like with this movie, you really, a lot of people probably wouldn't have seen it had they not put as much stuff out as they did after the second Thor movie being so disappointing. And I think that the storytelling here was mostly good, and that is kind of covered up by all the jokes and the comedy they added in there, which was great. But like what do you guys think about like the main like the main thrust of this? Like, was it what you expected? Was it disappointing? Like Asgard's blown up.
I didn't expect it to be so funny. And at some points that was jarring to me, which is probably why I didn't give it a higher score, because sometimes I feel like it took away from a few things, like the flow, like Loki betraying Thor again, but they did that just so Loki can learn his lessons and goes and saves Asgard later. At the beginning, because normally, you can tell how Marvel superhero films are going to end within about the first 10 minutes. Even though that we saw, what's his name? Massive fire thing. Surtur. I did not see, I did not see his version, like the version of Ragnarok that he was talking about. I didn't see that coming to pass and then using it for their own benefit. I thought that was nice. But, yeah, by that scene, you did kind of know what was happening.
So I don't think this relies on the jump scare, the shock value. That's what I was going to say. So like because it relies so heavily on the comedy, which a lot of times comedies don't hold up. Some of them I'll watch anytime it's on TV, right? But some of them you're like, okay, it was great the first time, but sometimes that's just the way it is. A comedy is a one-time ride, and it can be the most hilarious comedy ever, but like it just doesn't last. So like when when he presses that button and the birthday fireworks come out and like Topaz, I was just like I could barely control myself. I was laughing so hard, right? I don't expect that reaction again, but I still expect I'll probably enjoy that scene going forward. I'll enjoy a lot of these jokes going forward. And because it didn't rely on that, it seems to rely more on the fact that it caught you by surprise with its comedy, which the trailer was very comedic. But it says Ragnarok in the title. You thought like, well, maybe the trailer is just trying to get me in the theater. So I don't know. It's relying kind of on a different element of surprise than a horror movie or the big reveal of the big bad or whatever. They revealed the villain and what was going on almost right away, and we kind of knew where the story was going almost right away. It wasn't a very the main plot of Hela and wanting to take over Asgard, or she kind of takes over Asgard. She wants to take over other places, which I don't know. It's kind of weird. Yeah,
like this movie didn't rely on plot twists.
Right? Yeah, there was no like Hela is actually Loki, and you're like, oh god, like what just happened? Yeah, well, at one point in the comics, Loki does become a woman. So that happens.
She-Loki.
Yeah.
I don't read the comics, so none of these titles are correct, by the way.
Yeah. Well, let's see. He becomes reincarnated or whatever as a woman for a while, and then after that he turns good and is kind of a kid who like works to help Asgard. He like gets reincarnated as like a young good Loki or something.
So they did the same thing with Loki as they did with the Apocalypse clone in X-Force.
Yes. Yeah.
Sorry, I haven't read the new Loki book, but I did really enjoy that X-Force run, just because it's got some delightful, delightful Deadpool moments. Domino and Wolverine and all the good bits. Anyway, sidetrack. Yeah.
For me, that's kind of like the end of the X-Men in comics. Like once Uncanny X-Force ends and you have Second Coming and all that, that's kind of.
Yeah, I tried to read Second Coming, didn't work. Tried X-Men versus Avengers.
No, that was terrible. It was terrible.
Tried the whole Phoenix thing, and then just fuck Scott Summers. Like I never liked Cyclops, but
see, that was the thing.
Another reason to hate him.
Like, so Cyclops was always kind of like a boring douche for a long time.
Yeah.
And then in the 2000s, he became like the leader of the mutant race, a strong leader who was willing to make hard choices. Like Wolverine and him had become like kind of like best friends. They kind of had this mutual respect. And then when they did like the whole Phoenix thing and made him like kill Xavier, they just ruined all of that. They just took it all away because they wanted to. He actually became like an interesting character for once, and then now he's like a terrorist or something. And you're like, what? I don't know.
Yeah, boring characters can work.
Sorry. Random X-Men comic aside.
Sorry.
The end of this movie, that big, huge sequence with the giant ship. I mean, did you think there was a lot more people in Asgard I thought there was a lot more people in Asgard than that.
I'm assuming that some people died. Only the important people were in the throne room. Didn't look like there was many children there or anything like that. Just the upper tier. Got to keep the hierarchy alive. Seeing you still have Thor as a monarch. So you can't have the peasants in your throne room. They're obviously
the fact that they all
a massive
fit,
feast.
They all fit on the bridge in the first place, right? I don't know.
Maybe the Sanctum Sanctorium, it's much bigger on the inside.
I took it to be that a lot of people were killed, and as well, the Asgardians might not actually have a very large population because they do live for hundreds or thousands of years, so they won't necessarily have to reproduce that often. So that would also be why they don't have many children.
There might be some sort of population control because at some point they're like, we've only got 10 square miles, and we live forever, so we can just stop with the children so much. And
oh my goodness.
I do feel like a lot of them were in the army, and the whole army got killed. So, that's kind of the main profession, is to be a soldier. So,
yep. So now they need to train up a whole batch of new soldiers.
Yeah, because it seems like they don't really have hardly any left. I mean, they got Heimdall, and then a bunch of civilians. Really, I mean, it seems like almost everyone else died, unless they have garrisons or people off world or something that we'll discover.
Yeah, maybe.
And how many of them will survive? Oh, sorry, Sarah, go. Sorry.
But you'd also presume that if they did have people off-world and they heard what was going on with Hela, they'd come back to try and defeat her.
Well, that's the whole thing, is they can't come back, right? In this established universe, in the comics, I think it's, Heimdall watches the bridge and people can get to it certain ways and they come across. Here it's like a, teleporter that he has to activate. And that seems to be the main way in and out. Loki knows another way, but I don't think anyone else does.
Spaceship.
I don't even know. Can Odin just transport in and out of Asgard, or does he need the bridge as well? It seems he needs it, which is weird. So it seems there's no way for them to get off. And like I said before, she was holding his staff, which should be able to activate the bridge. So I mean, the whole thing was a little
Are
contrived.
you saying Loki has a Mordor's map? Is that how he knows?
He has what?
The Mordor's
map.
Marauders.
Yeah.
Mordor's map.
Oh,
yeah.
sorry.
Mordor's map.
Is he getting to Mordor?
Mischief managed. Yeah, that fits. I think he probably does.
Mischief managed.
Yep.
Oh, man.
And Odin can legit be Dumbledore because he can apparate out, but he might not want to. He can escape when he wants to.
So I like the fact that Loki comes to save them. That make and it feels like the fact that they needed him to show up with a big ass ship, which, I mean, I don't know, whatever. It seems like that was the only reason for the betrayal scene. Why couldn't it have just been all right, brother, goodbye, I'm staying, and maybe he tries to punch him or something. I don't know. The whole call the Grand Master and get Thor was really come on, dude. And I know that he's not the bravest, but he had to know that's not a good plan.
I've been spacing out a few times. Have we talked about Bruce Banner jumping from the ship and just splattering onto the Bifrost?
That was the best.
Just obviously must have smashed every bone in his body.
All right. Splat. I know, and he's probably gonna turn into the Hulk any second now. But what the fuck? His Hulk is clearly broken. It's broken.
Yeah, because shouldn't the Hulk come in when he was falling to try to protect him?
Typically he would, and in the Avengers where he's I'm always angry and he can just do it at will, but he's lost control. And so, he said before, when he tried to shoot himself, he did shoot himself, and then he woke up as the Hulk. Yeah. So it's not like the Hulk came in when he was about to shoot himself. It came in once he was already hurt.
Hulk just wanted to see Bruce fuck up.
Yeah.
And
Hulk
then
is just there
finally arrive.
laughing.
Hulk's just well, you kicked me out, dickhead, so you have to deal with being a pulp right now. Bye.
And then Hulk is like, "Oh, big giant fire monster, yeah!" He's like, "No, Hulk, no, just come, stop, just come with us this one time." And he actually listens. Like, holy crap! He's like, "Are you sure?"
The Hulk is basically like a 2-year-old in this, right?
Yeah.
So maybe him not turning up when Bruce Banner is falling is just him throwing a tantrum,
Throwing a tantrum. Yeah, he's like, I was out of the cage for a long time now. Yeah, that was great. And then, and I mean, like the cherry on top, like Surtur rises and he's like, yes, everyone die. Like he doesn't realize there's no one there. He's like, yes, Ragnarok is here. I'm the best. And then, Hela, is like, oh no, they're about to destroy my home, which she does seem to care about. And then everything goes to hell after that. But then
doesn't she?
The best part is he's like, it's okay. We'll rebuild. There's solid foundations, and it'll be stronger than before.
You almost had it for a second. You almost had the accent for a second. You were so close. Oh, sorry.
I could do it if I really wanted, but.
Oh yeah, sure. I believe.
Hela.
I could totally do it.
Pissed because if they destroy Asgard, that's her power base gone. Like she gets power from Asgard, the place, not Asgard, the people.
Yeah, she's drawing from like the Odin force, I'm guessing.
Odin.
I mean, because it seems like that's probably what keeps that place together, right?
Odin magic.
It's a floating world.
I really do like Thor and Hulk teaming up because they are the two characters that really enjoy fighting for fighting's sake. And you see it in the first Avengers film when they're fighting each other and Hulk punches Thor and Thor smiles and he's like, yeah, I can unleash on this guy. I'm so happy. I'm glad that they continued that and did a much longer Thor waiting.
And he's like, we fought. I totally won. Yeah, doesn't sound right, but it is. I won for sure. For sure, I won.
Hulk is
and then he's like,
raging fire. You were like
I hate Banner. Hulk, you're the best. No, Hulk he smashes things. I like you, Banner. You're much more useful. Like, hey, you're kind of being a dick, Thor. I guess. Yeah, like he said that normally when he was the Hulk, he could kind of still see, he could remember what was going on, but he didn't this time. So I feel like the Hulk can see what's going on when, when it's Banner again, right? Is that the idea?
Probably, because otherwise how does he know when to come in if Banner's in danger or is going to die? He wouldn't know otherwise.
Because it's a response connected to his parents.
It's like a physical response.
But still. His sympathetic nervous system. So whenever he goes into fight or flight or anxiety or anything like that, that's what sets him off. So all you kind of need to do is shock him a few times, get that heart rate up, boom, Hulk. So I guess thinking he could fall from a ship to the ground, he's like, yeah, Hulk's going to come out. Nope.
But I mean, how many times with the Avengers was he like, yeah, drop me, and then he turns Hulk, he's like, this is how I do it. He just hasn't tested that in a while, and he's been the Hulk for so long, and clearly he was like, I ain't never doing that Hulk thing again, like, fuck that. And he's like, well, okay, I guess I gotta help Thor, I'll do it.
Donna as well. Could you imagine if he's scared of cockroaches and he sees one and then he like flips out and turns into the Hulk in 2 seconds and smashes the whole house down?
Every time he sees a huntsman, he just hulks out. Oh, that would be the best.
That would be so good.
Bruce, this is why you can't rent anywhere. Oh. My renter's insurance does not cover gamma radiation.
His landlord. Yeah, Bruce, I noticed that an entire wall is missing. Sorry, I saw a mouse one night and Hulk smash.
I do love when he becomes Banner and he's got like the giant necklace, like the beads. He's like, what the hell is this?
It was good.
Mardi Gras Hulk was fantastic.
Yeah, I feel like Hulk was living his best life for a while there.
He was though. Like, let's be honest, he had a hot tub. He got to fight all the time. Like, got to drink a shit ton of alcohol. Why wouldn't you live the life?
Excellent. So we end up with Thor misses an eye, and he's the new king, and he's got a throne on this weird party barge, giant ship, whatever it is. And Loki's there being, buddies, and we've got a few of the Asgardians left, and Hulk's there, and Valkyrie's there, and they're gonna head to Earth.
Dead.
Yeah, I just carried him along with me. He's been dead for forever. I just felt really bad about it.
Oh, he's alive.
You guys noticed that Chris Hemsworth, he's actually pulling a Star Trek captain. Easter egg for a Star Trek movie.
Oh, he's doing like the pose. Yeah. Well, he was Kirk's dad. Yeah.
Exactly. So I thought it was really funny. I'm just like, oh, Star Trek.
Mr. Loki, engage.
Do you think we'll see Hela again? What do you guys think?
I'm indifferent to if we see her again or not. I was not really impressed by her. I mean, if we do, hopefully they just make her character a bit more interesting.
I think if we see her again, some of the magic of the performance might be gone. Because this movie is very much a comedy. So Kate Blanchett could play it that way a bit more. But I think if it is in another Marvel movie, they won't be able to, so the character will be quite different. So
if she shows up with Thanos, maybe she'd have to be a little less unhinged, right?
Yeah.
No, I'm just saying, like if she still is like crazy, like wanting to kill everything, like I don't know if that would necessarily work on that end. She'd have to have regained some kind of sanity and direction to like team up with Thanos and help him get the Infinity Gauntlet or something. I don't know.
Yeah, but unhinged characters are the best. Like, legit, my favorite sort of characters are the crazy ones because they are so interesting. So,
except for Jared Leto's Joker, that was just weird.
That's because I don't see any method to that madness. It is just throw everything at a wall and see what sticks.
I was almost surprised to see Idris Elba in this as much as he was, because I thought that there was talk of him being, I think, in Age of Ultron at one point, like some scenes that were going to shoot or something, and he didn't want to do it, or like he was just kind of over the role in general. And so when they opened up with Scourge there instead of him, I was like, oh, I guess we're just not going to see him, right? Yeah, I don't know. They somehow coaxed him back.
It could have been like with the actress who plays Sif, like they wanted him, but they didn't give him enough time ahead, and he was working on another project, so he couldn't.
Yeah, because he's done a lot the last few years as well.
I mean, he's made statements that kind of like he was kind of over the whole thing. But I think it was maybe the director that he didn't like or something. I'm trying to remember.
Bruno?
He had some conflict with someone. Film? It was maybe it was the director, the producer. I think part of it was that like Marvel not paying them particularly well. So especially early on, like people like Chris Evans and Chris Hemsworth and stuff, they got these contracts that were very favorable to Marvel because they weren't big names at the time. The only one that's really made a ton of money, like some of the other actors that had smaller parts, were paid well. Obviously for a film or two, but like Robert Downey Jr. makes all the money, just all the money. Like he was, I think Age of Ultron was the last one he was contracted for. And so they're like, oh, you want me to come back? Spider-Man, another Avengers, whatever. He's just like, well, you got to give me all the money. And there, even some of these people with these smaller parts are like, well, I'm not making enough to really, like, it's not worth my time, or I'm not really into it anymore.
Yeah.
But they have so many people in these things. Like, I don't know.
With Idris Elba, he struggles getting work as a leading man in movies because they just don't cast him, even though he is a very good actor, unfortunately. So it might also be for him that this is a tiny role, and it might be conflicting with other projects he wants to be on.
Right.
And it's just like, is it really worth me saying no to another project because of this one, but it's such a small role? And he won't necessarily be paid great if what you're saying is true. If he was contracted to play Heimdall.
Yeah. He was. They signed these people up for like 10 movies at a time or something, under a certain rate, and they kind of get stuck. And I mean, I guess they can always just say, no, I'm not doing it. Like I think that's what Natalie Portman did. Was like, I don't want to do it anymore. So that works. But at the same time, if they're like, so you can't like Captain America. Right? Like he said several times, like he was thinking, maybe I don't want to act anymore. He's like, well, that's not really what I meant. I meant I want to do more directing, and he was kind of getting tired of the role. But I think they kind of tried to walk him back from that, and so they've set it up so that they could maybe replace him, right? But at some point, like, does he want to do 20 Captain America movies? Of course not. Who wants to do that?
Yeah.
So there's got to be some sort of upper limit to the Marvel Cinematic Universe as a whole, where you have to start replacing people, either recasting them entirely and just trying to keep the character going, or now Iron Man is someone completely different, and that might be a problem, for the audience. I don't know.
Or you retire characters
I was really disappointed
for a bit.
that they do that in comics, but like Civil War really should have ended with Steve Rogers shot in the face. I mean, I just
like, why didn't they kill Captain America already?
Because they already have like Bucky Barnes and Falcon lined up to take over the role. I think it should have been a bit more dramatic than just relearning how to work.
Yeah, I think they want him. I think that they clearly want him in that face-off with Thanos, and I think that's probably where we lose the character. I might be wrong on that, but I know because that's how the comic book ended. Like maybe they thought that's too predictable or something, but. Civil War was also over different things.
Has Marvel killed anyone important yet? Like any of
Crossbones, man. They killed Crossbones.
No, I mean, like none of the leads, right?
No, like none of the title characters, not yet.
Yeah.
Quicksilver.
So it'll happen, it's kind of, but.
Yeah.
I feel like they killed him more because it's harder. It costs more money to do the whole super speed thing, and it solves a lot of problems. So, it's like the Flash or whoever. You have to always kind of put some sort of limiter on them, or you got to find a way to lock them up. Like Superman, when he's in the Justice League, it's like he can usually handle most of those problems by himself. So you put him in like a mind prison, or you throw some kryptonite at him or something, and then it just becomes kind of hard to ride around.
Sorry. Yeah, it's kind of weird that like in the 90s, so the first band had a Prince song attached, Spider-Man, like Mystery Men, and you had like these songs attached to the movies, and they stopped doing that. Because
Kiss from a Rose for Batman, right?
Yeah. Yeah, like all these songs, but now they're kind of they're redoing that. The immigrant song used in the trailer and then used again in the movie. And Guardians of the Galaxy definitely had that feel as well. And they're not doing it with every every superhero film, but they are definitely attaching certain like in certain films, they're attaching music to it again, which I find.
But the difference is with those, it was like inspired by the movie, and it was really just it seemed to be a song that the person wrote, and they're just like, yeah, you can have it for the movie. Like it usually didn't connect with the movie in any meaningful way. And it's back then, it's like we had theme songs, right? We don't do theme songs for shows as much anymore either. Yeah, exactly.
We should.
So now Guardians of the Galaxy definitely did it right, where Guardians of the Galaxy was they use the music to set a mood, right? It takes you back to that he was abducted in the 80s, and it's music that's already established that you already love. So, and we know that like emotions are deeply can be attached to music. So it's different from like, here's this new song that's really cool, hope you like it. Like, versus like, here's this classic song you love.
As well, with what you're saying, Baby Driver has a lot of music in it, and I don't think any of it's new, but I think music is coming back into movies a lot because we're having like the rebirth of the musical or whatever with La La Land and the Disney musical. So, Beauty and the Beast being a musical and stuff like that.
It's more Edgar Wright being like, look how.
Oh, is that Edgar Wright?
And I like Tarantino, but I don't. Yeah, that's Edgar Wright. He's like,
yeah,
do ultra violence. You know, it's the new Tarantino. Probably less of a wanker. But
Tarantino, man,
a
you know Tarantino is a weirdo.
That's
but I mean, I love Tarantino films, but he is a weirdo. And I mean, like, he doesn't even, I don't even know if he owns like a DVD player or anything. He just like, he watches films, like he literally watches the film in his like private theater. Like, you know what I mean? He just sits around all day watching actual films. He's like, I don't know, what's Netflix? I'm sorry, what's a Blu-ray? What is that? Like, no, I just buy the film.
If he has to, he gets DVDs made into laser discs just so he can watch them that way.
That's great though.
Speaking back to the idea of oversaturation of like superhero movies, because I also had a discussion with my friend when we found out, there's gonna be a whole new Star Wars trilogy after this one. So like, does oversaturation really have an effect? Because I mean, granted, I don't get really like excited for Marvel movies anymore, but I still enjoy going to them.
But with Marvel, eventually they're going to run out, and it's mostly going to be actors and people aging out, and you know how that shakes out and whether or not people respond. With Star Wars, it's like they can jump around a bit, and it's like each generation can discover the new Star Wars, but
each generation will have a different Star Wars,
right?
Because,
but when you try to do like 15 movies, you know, in 10 years or something, like you're going to burn it out. People are going to
like massively, and as well with Star Wars they could just have it and have like one trilogy or something like that every 10 years or something, or 15 years, and then I don't think people will burn out, and even if the last one wasn't that great, they'll still be like, oh my god, this is super exciting. And then do a few Rogue
Ones or whatever.
Yeah, and so you don't burn it out, because I think Star Wars is going to massively burn out, and I'm not looking forward necessarily to a new Star Wars trilogy, because I'm like, why? To be honest, like, what's the point of it? What's the point of having another one?
More lightsaber fights.
Well, other than the obvious money, as a massive Star Wars fan who probably should do more productive stuff with his time, I find that like I am consistently wanting to know more about the Star Wars universe. So, like, we had a discussion in the Force Awakens chat about like what new ideas Star Wars could go with, and I suggested like I would love to see like a crime movie set in like the setting of the Star Wars universe, where it doesn't have to have Force users, it doesn't have to have those big main characters involved. I want like some like down on his like gangster getting involved in some grand like crime lord scheme, and it's just in Star Wars. It's just in the Star Wars universe. I feel like there are so many opportunities to tell different genres of stories simply set in the Star Wars universe without having to constantly overplay this is the big be all end all of the universe.
Yeah, like a movie version of 1313, the game that Disney dropped.
Disney!
Come on, Rocksteady, get on it. Get on it.
I want it. But yeah.
So what Marvel has stopped doing? Marvel has stopped producing fantastic comic books because they don't own the right. Maybe they ruined the X-Men on purpose. Who knows? I hope they didn't, because fuck them. If they did, Marvel has made enough money.
They let people do whatever the hell they wanted on purpose, but I don't think they intentionally tried to tank it. But yeah.
Yeah. So if they stopped making Marvel, like after Avengers 4 and the Infinity Gauntlet is ended and all that kind of thing, if they stopped making films for 10 years, which they could easily do, and sit on their massive pile of money, because how much of like this DC and Fox and all that is, they can point to Marvel and go, well, they're still doing it, but also the goodwill that is built up by Marvel films because they're fun and they're interesting does transfer over to people seeing other superhero films. So if Marvel does the same thing they're doing in comic books, and just stop making movies for a bit, let everyone else die out, get the rights back for the X-Men, and come back with like another massive story, and they can do that again, in control of their own characters, which I think would be the best way, because we're already at 17, 19, maybe 20 by the end of the next 2 years, and that's enough. That's
a lot of movies.
With how
how many I have spent at the cinemas. Oh god, I saw Iron Man like 3 times. Shit.
Yep.
With the Marvel movies, I've become less interested by them just with the fact that I'm like, oh, I know it's going to be these heroes involved and this hero involved. But when like the Netflix series would first come out introducing like Daredevil or Jessica Jones or The Punisher, I'm like, ooh, I'm interested by this because they haven't had all these movies including them. And have any of you guys heard of the Hulu series coming out with The Runaways?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I really I enjoyed the Runaways comics. Those were they were kind of like my favorite Marvel hero group. And so I have decent enough hopes for the Hulu series because the characters look very similar to what they are in the actual comic series,
but the trailer looked like terrible acting, and
I don't know.
We got to see more.
But could it be worse than Inhumans? I don't think so.
We have a character. We have a character whose main thing is she has giant hair, which is really cool. It costs a lot of money to do CG on. Let's shave it all off.
Yeah.
But the CGI was so horrible. It was so bad.
Yeah, but that really bad CG probably cost a lot of money, and so
I didn't have time to go to the IMAX theater to watch it.
I barely had time to watch it. As I was falling asleep one night on Hulu, and I was like, I watched the first 2 episodes, and I'm out.
Honestly,
I didn't see any of it.
Marvel just needs to give people time to recharge their batteries to get really interested.
I think so. But
so
to
the
be
thing
honest,
now is that Netflix is not going to be getting any shows anymore.
Yeah.
They were contracted for what they've got, and that's it.
Yeah. No, guys, have you noticed Disney's being a dickhead at the moment, and all of these shows and all of these franchises are from Disney, and Disney's just being an asshole to everyone at the moment. Did you know that they're trying to get paid an extra 5 or 10% for screening movies? The new Star Wars movie, The Last Jedi.
They're trying to push up their theater take.
Yeah, and then if people don't follow a specific contract, they have to pay Disney an extra 5% on top of that. They're being massive bullies, and they're burning out all of. This is why I'm not looking forward to a new Star Wars movie or more Marvel movies, because Disney is being a fucking dickhead to everyone, so many people, and I'm just like, Disney.
Yeah.
I'm very tempted to boycott Disney at the moment because, I'm very disillusioned with them. And, this is someone who loved Disney movies growing up, but I don't like how they are running their business at the moment.
Yeah, it's the movies I feel have been rather excellent. I've really enjoyed the movies because, the directors are good, the actors are good, but then when it comes to the business side of things,
they are
Disney is making themselves out to be the big mega evil corporation.
I mean, with the way they've treated some of the actors, with what they've done, I was always a big X-Men fan. I grew up with that cartoon. I loved it. The movies that we've had some of them were not the greatest, but I've enjoyed them.
They've been fun.
And so Marvel, before Disney bought them, made that deal, which kind of kept them running at the time, selling those rights. But it was kind of a shitty deal where it's as long as you make movies, you get the rights forever. Disney's mad because someone else has their toys. So, and I collect some Marvel figures and things like that. And it's for a while they're not making like Fantastic Four merchandise, not making X-Men merchandise. They're canceling games. They're like all this really petty shit. And they go, oh no, it has nothing to do with that. It has nothing to do with the fact that we don't own the movie rights, which are the only thing we care about because that makes all the money. We're like, no, but it definitely does. And everyone who works there, who's left there, or people like, you know, off the record or whatever, will tell you like it absolutely does. And it's not just with like the Marvel properties; it's with other stuff. Yeah, like they've canceled, they've shuttered video game companies because, you know, and canceled projects because they're like, well, that company is licensing our project, right? Well, LucasArts was shut down, but like they canceled a number of like Star Wars games. Like what was the one that everyone was looking forward to?
1313.
1313, right? Which you know sounded like it had a lot of potential, and they're like, well, no, because we're, you know, we want to put everything under this brand over here instead. And like that was the only reason for it. Mm-hmm. You know, it's all like a financial decision. Like you cancel like, and this is, you're talking about, you know, art basically, right? You're canceling art because you think like, well, no, we want to control it. Which is kind of shitty. I'm going to Disneyland, like, you know, at the end of the year. Like, my son's going, like, we're all going for New Year's, like a big family thing. And I'm like, holy crap, that shit costs a lot of money. Like,
you're feeding the beast, Adam. You're just feeding the beast.
Oh, I need all of your money. Oh, like, damn it, Mickey. Leave me alone.
Oh, you have 3. That's a very good Mickey Mouse.
What?
That was a very good. You can do 3 voices. That's a very good Mickey Mouse.
Croaky, it was.
Okay, now
please don't.
You're slowly strangling your goodwill, Adam.
Oh, I didn't know I had.
Maybe something good can come out of it. Marvel and DC, if it were a writer or an artist for them, since the beginning, you had no rights to the characters that you created. Even if you had created them beforehand and you had used them when you started writing for them, and it's, you know...
Yeah, you signed all that shit over in very unfavorable agreements so that you could pay your rent.
I feel like...
But out of that, we now have Image Comics, and Image Comics makes some of my favorite comics. Like, Chew is just amazing, finished now. But maybe something good can come out of this Disney monopoly. You know, people just couldn't go, you know, fuck off. Like, we'll start our own thing. But I guess DreamWorks tried to do that, and DreamWorks is circling the drain.
But hopefully
DreamWorks made some really good stuff for a while, though.
Actually, what's the name of
Pixar, and I think Pixar has almost drained my goodwill because, you know, Cars 3, do we know? Planes? Nope.
Was that okay?
Finding Dory 2? Nope. Like the only
Finding Dory was okay.
Actually,
I don't have children.
It was okay, but I think it's playing a lot into the nostalgia factor.
Right.
No, there's the production company that did Kubo and the Two Strings, and apparently Leica, all of their stuff is really, really, really good, but they aren't making money because people aren't seeing their movies. So we need to see them so they can continue to make fantastic movies. And same as if we go and see more international films, that helps different companies and the smaller companies, really. Like, I watch a lot of Korean dramas and Korean movies, and if they have a Korean movie in cinema that I want to see, I don't bootleg it. I pay and I go and see it because they are fantastic, and I want to support that, and I want to get more international media in Australia. So, yeah.
We've got this crazy ship, and then the Grandmaster at the very end declaring that the revolution on Sakar was a tie. So we don't know what'll happen next. I assume it says at the end Thor will appear again in Infinity War. So that's probably where we're going to see what happens to the Asgardians, and hopefully they're not all slaughtered by Thanos, because that ship looked ominous, whatever it was. Anyway, so thank you all for joining me. And be sure to check out the YouTube and the WordPress and the forums on the Podcast Spice and Fire and all the various things that we do. Whatever the new thing is, I'm sure we're doing it. So, yep. Also, buy Casper mattresses and whatever else people are promoting right now that isn't paying us, because, you know, no one pays us for anything. All right. Have a good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Cheers. Thanks, Adam.
Crikey.
Oh my god.
Oh no.
Are we actually doing this sponsored content, or are you just joking? Because
no, he's
Come on. You
Who in
think I
their
would have
right mind
sponsored
would
content?
sponsor us?
No. Casper Mattress sponsors everything, Paul. So clearly they've sponsored us. I got a great sleep on my Casper mattress, and they're paying me to say that. They're not paying me. Just they're not. It's a lie. I'm lying.
Shout out to Jack Link's Beef Jerky. Not sponsored, just a fan.
You named your puppy after prolific musician Yanni?
No. Her name is Remy, but she to talk in a certain way, she has to kind of stretch her mouth to yawn, so she'll yawn and make this noise, but she's only yawning to make the noise. It's weird. It's a weird vocalization. She looks like a Tasmanian
You've
tiger.
disappointed the Venn diagram of VOK fans and Yanni fans.
What's Yanni? Is that a musician?
Never mind.
Is that from the before times? There's one of the two voices Adam can do.
What's the other one?
Hand me my wine, Smithers.
It's the most
The
effeminate
other ones
Mr.
where I
Burns.
talk like this. I talk
Yeah,
like
that
this,
one.
and I say things, and I say, crikey, mate. And then I say governor, and I mix up accents and
It's the
regions.
offensive Cockney / Australian / any type of
You have
British
a little
accent.
bit of New Zealander in there as well with the last word.
I don't know what we want to do for ratings. Like, we can't do Thor hammers anymore.
Unless you're giving it a 0, then you could.
Yes, we could actually. That makes a good point. Just do whatever you like. I will.
Birthday orgies.
It's my birthday.
Space orgies.